Right. Any thoughts? Anybody got anything they want to ask? Yes.
What was going on between you and the Prentice, your character and the Prentice Hancock character? There was a bit of a thing.
Yes, we
that was very
were sort of a wee item, weren't we?
Yeah, but it was very understated on screen. What do you think was going on in reality?
They thought we looked quite a nice couple, I suppose. And like all these things, you know, sort of 1 week we have babies, and then the next week we don't talk to each other. So it's a kind of normal relationship, I suppose, really, actually. Yeah, but they did sort of, I think, another time, another place. We both had kiddies, and then last sunset, you know, we were going to set up a new world together. And Full Circle was nice because then, you know, there was sort of, then Nick came into it and everything else. So I think it was just trying to sort of soften it up. But I remember another one, which I don't actually remember the episode, but it was just Prentice and I in main mission, sort of obviously, you know, late night duty or something. And to make it again, to soften it and make it more, you know, normal and real, they gave me a tapestry to stitch, you know, thinking poor Sandra will be doing that. And it was Helen Bevan, our makeup hairdresser lady, it was hers. And I made such a mess of it, I felt so bad for her because I was stitching away and it was all rubbish. But never mind.
Paul Jones, what about him?
Oh, well, that was lovely. But the funny thing is, I'd always fancied Paul Jones like rotten. So when they said he was going to be, because Sylvia was very nice because she came up and said, "I've got a boyfriend, you've got a fiance in the next episode. I've got someone really nice for you." And I thought, "Oh, goody, who?" And she said, "Paul Jones." And I went, "Ooh." So that was nice.
Yeah, so did Sandra sort of prefer Paul or Nick or then Paul Jones because sort of sheer relationship sort of thing?
I'm not going to kiss and tell because that's naughty.
Yeah.
But Paul was the official fiancé, but again it was a sort of remote control romance because he was always on the screen and I was in main mission, so you know, no need for birth control pills on that one, mate. No, Paul was lovely, and the funny thing is I remember years later that even before then I'd actually done a movie with him called Privilege. And I was just one of the many girls in it. He was playing a kind of pop star, I think. And I thought he was very fanciable then, so there we go. But I'm not saying who I preferred. Not right.
How did it feel to be the bass squeeze?
The bass squeeze, jolly nice, I say.
With Paul Jones and, you know, Nick at one point.
Yeah, I did quite well. And I had another fiancé in Bringers of Wonder, didn't I?
Yeah. Bass squeeze.
So, bass squeeze, yeah, I know. Well, I remember getting a letter in the early 80s or late 70s from a fan in America who sort of said, she said, "You know, for a quiet person, you sure get around." And I thought, I didn't do too badly, actually. Didn't do too badly at all. Anything else?
How was it to come from about Space 1999 to come from the first year to the second year? So I hear
big disappointment.
Yeah, no. How comes that who's from the old stuff there? It's you, it's Nick Tate,
and that's it.
And
Barbara Martin, obviously.
Yeah, and all the others.
Anton was back again, but you see, the policy was that. I'm drowned mad. You know, obviously Sylvia and Jerry had split, I mean professionally and matrimonially. Freddie came in and Freddie wanted to put his stamp on it. And also like in your own work, I'm sure, and across the whole universe, there's lots of politics. So somebody's jockeying for position and someone feels not big enough to take on board anything else. And Freddie didn't want me back. I think
Freddie was the new producer this time.
Yeah,
right?
Freddie Freiberger.
He also worked for Star Trek before, right?
Yeah. He's known to kill off shows, actually. I'm sorry, I mean, I know he's got... Yes, he's known. Put Freddie in a show and the bloody thing folds. But he killed off the Bionic Man, I think. I think he's... Sorry, folks. Hello, Freddie. No, he wanted, as he said, he wanted someone younger and prettier than me. So, and I heard all kinds of things, whether they're true or not, I don't know. So, subsequently, on the first year we were all put under contract. And I remember on one episode with Clifton, because they would usually shoot main mission stuff first and then do, the other stories. And we would shoot usually, first thing. And I think Clifton and I, so we started work at 8:25, for some reason, always 8:25, you end at 5:25. So I think at 5 to 9, Clifton and I had been released, and we were back on the motorway going home. We were finished for that episode. It was a lot going on with whoever the visiting guests were. And I think Clifton wasn't too happy and grumbling, and I said, sweetie, I'm laughing all the way to the bank because, I might not be working for the next 8 days, but I've got paid for it. But on second year, I wasn't under contract, and Leslie, we had a different casting lady by then. It was Michael Barnes in the first year, Leslie DePettit on the second year, and she would just ring up and she would sort of say to my agent, "Is Zienia free tomorrow for half a day?" That was it, no more than that. And I also knew that they'd gone down, simplified main mission, command centre it became, to make it smaller, tighter. And I knew that if I was lucky, I would get half a day, 1 day at best every episode. So I thought, time to go. So I spoke to Leslie. No contract, so there's nothing, I'm sure you all know, guys. If you're under contract, you negotiate. But to be told, I was just like an extra. I think the extras probably got more work because, they were needed more. So I left. And that was after 3 episodes. And then I can't be certain of dates because I didn't know then that anybody would be interested, 30 years later. But Barbara phoned me and said, "Hi, honey, what are you doing?" I said, "Not a lot." And she said, "Would you be prepared to come and talk to Freddie and Jerry?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll talk to anybody, dear." So we made an arrangement and had lunch. I saw Freddie and Jerry first. Freddie did all the talking, and he kept telling me, "Oh, well, there are big cutbacks here, and we've had to do big cutbacks there, and there's no money on this." And I said, yeah, I get the picture, you're cutting back, but I said, "Can I just tell you, Freddie, that the cutback actually starts here, because my money is now, because they were paying me by the day, odd days, no guarantee whether I'd be even in that episode, I'm taking a cut by about 3/4 in my salary." And that is extraordinary, because usually when you do a series, and if it goes again, you usually get more money, not less money. So then I said that, I said, "Can't you," because also you have to remember that Freddie might be Freddie Freiberger, but he was also Charles Woodgrove. He was writing several of them. He was doing, there was all kinds, stuff. So it was in his power to either give me more or less, or use me more or not. And he'd already shown one point of his power, which is where he didn't want me. So I said, "Well, can't you just say, if there's one scene, I'm just with," because usually it was only one scene, so I'm not asking for a lot. But I said, if I could have some scene where I'm in the kitchen and nobody's cooking, I don't know what, you think about it, you're the writer, I will think about it. And the extraordinary thing was that he agreed to that, and that he would send me scripts in advance, and if I was happy, then I would do it. But there was no more money, and I was very stupid in those days. I believed in artistic merit, which is very stupid, because artistic merit doesn't pay the bills. What I should have realised was if I asked for more money, then Freddie would understand that I was more important. But I think because I sort of said, "No, it's okay, it's the artistic merit I'm worried about," he thought, "Oh, fine, we get her for the same price, silly woman." So that basically. And the other thing that was extraordinary too was that I did say to my agent, "Look, I'm getting nothing. I'm getting, my part is cut down so little. Please, can I have a credit, with Zienia Merton, because I know, again, in first year, some people were not given a credit." So my agent asked them, and I have to say, not his fault. Well, it is his fault. He shouldn't have been an agent, not mine anyway. But they should be working for you and getting the best deal for you. But so he did ask them, and I got the credit, which is amazing. It said featuring, usually Tony Ann Holt, Nick, and then if I was in the episode, Zienia Merton. So that was extraordinary, because usually in this industry, especially more so in Hollywood, fighting for the credit is a bigger negotiation job as fighting for the money. So Freddie gave into that without any kind of hesitation. So that happened, but then I wasn't under contract. And also the other thing, because it doesn't marry up with the running order, whatever, but basically they wanted me back because Barbara and Martin had it written in their contract that they wanted a holiday. And whereas in year one, they had the same proviso, in year one, they closed the studio down for 2 weeks and everybody went on holiday. No one could believe it, because for an industry, usually, yes, you work round the main stars, and yes, they top and tail the episode, or they shoot them and then they go off to Spain and then they come back and do the next one. They didn't do that, so they said, no, we'll work round you on the second year. So they suddenly felt, and this is, I think, was said to me, as I said, I didn't take notes or anything like that, but they said, we've got nobody left in year two. Anybody tuning in, if Barbara and Martin are off, there are no old faces left. So I came back in, especially for Beta Cloud, and then it carried on from there. I know when you see the running order, there's other things. I'm not as clued up as all you guys, but Beta Cloud. But I was actually brought back for Beta Cloud specifically, and then, as I say, it still went on, no contract. And I then said to my agent, you've got to start looking, sweetie, because this is not good. And I then went up for a movie, which was a sequel to Virgin Soldiers, and it came down to between me and another actress, and I didn't get it. They went for the other actress, fair enough. So then my agent was approached by a Norwegian company, Norsk Films, to do a movie in Norway. And so I then, at this point, it was about October, I think. Again, I'm not sure on dates. But I then went to see Freddie and Jerry, asked to see them, and I said, look, I've been offered this film. It was the main part, so it was quite nice, as opposed to saying, Commander, there's a problem in hydroponics. And they said fine, which, of course, they should say fine, because I wasn't under contract. But it's a polite way of doing things. So they said fine, and I think it was Freddie, of course, who said, well, we heard you lost that film. I said, yeah, honey, I lost that one, but this is another one, okay? But I can understand, because it's a Norwegian film, it probably wouldn't be in the trade papers here. And then at that point was obviously when they were beginning to talk about, is there going to be Series 3? So this was a big, important time for anybody, because it might be another year's work. And I don't drive, believe it or not. I still don't drive. I'm now 61 and I'm 60 and I still can't drive. So I used to get a lift in with whoever, and usually it was Tony, because the first year it was Prentice who used to give me a lift, and the second year it was Tony. And so on the way I'd be saying, Tony, what should I do? I've got this film. Should I take it? Or is there going to be Yale 3? Poor old Tony must have gone berserk hearing me talking all the day. What should I do? And so finally, the Norwegians gave me dates, and as I say, these are hypothetical dates, but they are right. It was sometime in November, and at that point, Devil's Planet came up, and they were going to let Sandra out of the command center. She was going to go in an eagle into another planet, and I thought, wow, So I went to my agent and said, oh, look, I've just got the script for Devil's Planet and I want to do it. Look, after all this time, I'm allowed a little bit extra, and it seems quite, a bit more exciting than what I was used to. So he said, okay, I'll have a word with the Norwegians. So I will use these dates hypothetically. Say it's the middle of November. Say between, say the first week of November. Obviously they wouldn't want me all the time on space, but it's to give leeway, so they can call you. You're theirs and they can call you on those dates. It gives them leeway. Norwegians wanted me to start, I think, middle of November, say the 14th of November. Devil's Planet was going to start like the 8th. So that wouldn't give enough leeway. So the Norwegians were very nice and they said, no, fine, okay, you can start 10 days later. We will put your filming back, which is very, very kind, by, say, 10 days. And so I think, good, I can do Devil's Planet, finish it, go to Norway. When I go back to Pinewood, and this is just circumstance, this is not anybody being horrible, this is a big business, people don't have time to be mean. Maybe to Julia Roberts, but not to me. It's, they're not worried, it's their dates. But when I go back, Leslie said, oh no, those dates have changed now. We're not starting Devil's Planet on the 8th, we're starting Devil's Planet on the 14th. So which then means that I'm going to be even later and would need more postponement from the Norwegians. And my agent said, no, you can't. They've already postponed it once for you. You can't ask it twice. This is a huge amount of time. So he then said, and it was a Monday, we were talking about this at the weekend. He said, on Monday, you're filming, you phone me by 12 o'clock. Decide whether you will take Devil's Planet and lose the Norwegian film, and gamble that if there is a Series 3, you are on it, because they didn't really want you, well, he didn't say that, but I knew that, didn't want me too much on Series 2, or you take the Norwegian film and you leave Devil's Planet. Leave it. And that was the last third. There were 3, Devil's Planet and 2 more before the end of Series 2. So I again, poor Tony, what should I do? What am I going to do this? I'm going to do that. No. So anyway, 12 o'clock comes, quarter to 12 comes, and I go and see Leslie, and I say, Leslie, I am sorry, but I've decided to take the Norwegian film, so I will be leaving, Devil's Planet and the other 2 episodes, if I'm in them, ring my agent. Now, Tony then, we're filming in the Command Centre, and Tony at about 4 o'clock says, and this I do remember, this I'm not making any kind of strange memory recall, this is absolutely true, because I cannot to this day believe the timing. At about 4 o'clock, Tony says, Zienia, he said, because he would give me a lift home, he said, Zienia, Jerry's asked to see me, I'm going to be late, so do you want to wait for me, or do you want to try and get another lift home? I don't know how long I'll be, but Jerry wants to see me after we finish at 5:25. So I said, I'll wait for you in the bar. So I waited for Tony, and Tony came in an hour later, and his first words to me were, well, who's a clever girl then? He said, there's no Series 3. He just heard officially that. So that's what happened. That's what happened. And I can't believe it to this day, but that's how it happened.
How was it today after this story? After this history of the story, how is it today? If you have a chance, you will be back in your role.
Oh, I'd love to. I mean, I love doing space. I didn't like Year 2 very much. They're not my favourites. But the interesting thing about this story is that this is set to space 1999. In actual 1999, the Americans had a convention in LA. And we were all asked, a lot of us, to go over, and Freddie was also asked to come and talk, to the fans, and they were going to show a little thing that I'd done called Message from Moonbase Alpha, and prior to that, Freddie had been giving a talk like you're all here, and it's a big conference room like this. Outside there's a foyer, there was a veranda. And people would wait there before they went in, and Freddie was quite frail, I know, but apparently he said it was amazing how he remembered certain things and not others, but isn't that all of us? and Johnny Byrne was with him, you know, to help him and make things easy. And so Freddie and Johnny were standing by, I think there was a piano there in that foyer where they had little soirees. And I thought to myself, I was very nervous because Moon Message was going to be shown. It was the first time I'd seen it, and I get terribly scared watching anything with me in it. So I was kind of like that. Anyway, I walked past, waiting to go in for the screening of Message, which was in fact a big secret. And I see Freddie and Johnny, and I think, you know, come on, it's how many years, you know, 76 to, you know, that's a lot of years. So I think I go over to where Johnny and Freddie are standing, and I sort of go and I put my hand out to Freddie to say, you know, hi. And he turns to Johnny and he says to Johnny, who is this woman? And I think, wow. Nothing, 20 years on and nothing has changed. And Johnny looked very shocked, you can imagine, you know, he sort of went, what? And he sort of went, he said, well, Freddie, this is, you know, Zienia, you know, and I just went to Johnny, I went, I'm off. You know, because that's the throat cut, you know, end of a scene or whatever, and I just said to Johnny, I went, I thought, I can't be doing with this, you know, I'm nervous enough about Message, I don't need this. So I walked out, and I thought, well, isn't life strange, you know, he still doesn't know who I am.
So what does it mean? So you will be maybe when they make a show again in the role, but not when he is the producer.
Well, he won't be now because he'd have to be doing it from up there, won't he? And they won't want me back anyway. I'm far too old. I have to be granny of the bass, not the bass squeeze, but granny bass squeeze.
I think your role was reduced quite a bit then, Series 2, compared to Series 1. Reduced.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you look back, you know, I've looked at Series 1. I mean, I was a very lucky girl. They gave me quite a lot, actually. You know, we're all greedy and we're all actors and we all got egos, so I'd like to do more. But given the confines of the show and that the stars were Barbara Martin and Barry and guest stars, I did well. You know, I mean, originally I don't think they knew what to do with me, but I think they were very good to me.
Whose idea was to call you San instead of Sandra because they changed.
Is our wee Freddie again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that was the turning point, actually, because, you know, in the sense of, I went back on year 1, I know things, year 2, that things weren't great, and he just called me into his office, and, you know, I got a message, you know, God has called you, so, you know, Freddie wants to see you, so I go in, and I come in, and no, hello, Zienia, sit down, you know, okay, there's no time, he doesn't have to give me a cup of coffee or anything. But I was standing in front of him like a school kid, and he just said, your name's San, we've changed your name to San, that's it. And I went, well, what do you mean, you know, why? He said, that's it, off. And I was furious, you know, I get angry very quickly. And Martin heard me go, and Martin was the man. I said, they just told me, yeah, change my name to San, no, you know, no explanation, nothing. Whereas, you know, on year 1, I'm sorry guys if you've all heard this before, but I'm just going on the flow. Again, you know, it was a matter of life and death, and they used to bring the script to you, you know, as soon as they got it, which wasn't always, you know, too soon before you started shooting. And Steve Lanning brought the script to me, and actors shouldn't do this, but they do. And if they say different, don't believe them. What you do is you get the script and go, where's my name? You know, to see how much you've got. You know, if I got a lot or I got a little, you know. And I'm reading it, and it goes, oh, you know, Barbara and Martin, Prentice and Zienia go off to this planet. And I'm thinking, oh, that's nice. Again, you know, it's a bit extra, not in command centre. And then I read on, and I'm thinking this is quite nice, and then it cut, and strange things are happening on the planet, and then it says, shot of the bird-eating spider from James Bond, the biggie, on Prentice's shoulder, and I meant to go up and say, look, don't worry about it, I'll get rid of it. And I thought, no way, I can't do that. I'm terrified of spiders that big, and I've moved out, you know, I've moved. And I rushed down the stairs, and Steve is coming up at this point, and he said, what's the matter? What's the matter? You look really, he called it prune mouth. I don't know, like this, white with this colour and white like that. I said, I have to see Sylvia, I have to see Sylvia. So I rushed downstairs, knock on the secretary's door, please, I've got to see Sylvia. And she's saying, this woman's going funny. She says, hang on. I said, no, now, not after lunch, not after tea, now. I have to see Sylvia now. So she says, okay, calm down. She phones through to Sylvia. Sylvia comes in and what does she do? Do sit down. What's the matter? And I go, oh, Sylvia, here's the next script. I said, I'm sorry. I'm really, really, really sorry. And she says, oh, God, she said, you're not pregnant, are you? And I said, no, much, much worse, much worse. And she says, what do you mean, much worse? And I said, there's a spider. And I said, I can't go near it. You won't get me anywhere near it. I can't even do that. I mean, I'm like this. And she said, oh, she said, well, you're spiders. She said, well, me, she says, is mice. I said, really? And she said, yes. She said, they were still married. She said, we have a house in Buckingham, wherever in the country. And she said, one day I'm lying on the chaise longue, and she said, I hear, and I'm thinking, what's that? A bit of paper or something. And she realises that there are mice in the chaise longue, and she screams the place down, screams for Jerry, and says, my God, there's the bloody mice in the chaise longue. And Jerry, being Jerry, as you know, how calm he is, says, yeah, but okay, he says, get rid of the chaise longue, and no, we don't get rid, we move house, she says. And I don't know how true this is, or whether she said this to comfort me, but that was the difference. Sylvia would talk to you, would ask, was caring, had time. She knew that if she looked after her cast, she would get the best out of her cast. And that was the difference. And so when Freddie says, your name is changed to Son, that's it, I thought, yes it is, So there we go.
Do we have a favourite from season 1 episode?
Well, got to be Full Circle, really. Good bit of, running about. That was great fun. Uncomfortable because it was this time of the year that we did it. So it wasn't glorious sunny days. It was actually raining and miserable. And all I had on was the leopard skin. And that I had to be sewn into, so I couldn't even go to the loo. I had to think. Excuse me, I think in about half an hour I needed. Then we would unpick bits and go. But that was fun. Well, Last Sunset was fun. With old Paul going bananas. Matter of Life and Death was good. So this is why I'm saying year 1 was good. Again, the one with Joanna Dynam, that we were talking about yesterday with Peter Cushing. That was nice. I just wish they'd given me a nicer bandage, because I look really boring bandage,
It looks more like a hat.
I know.
Was it a bandage or was it a hat?
I don't know what it was, but they wouldn't have given it to Barbara, I tell you that. She wouldn't have worn it. She wouldn't have worn it. They would have to have a rethink on that one. And then the funniest thing on that show was that I saw it, it was repeated or shown. I think it was a repeat, actually. And so, it was quite intense, because Bran is trying to go off with the commander, and Van is trying to take Sandra to make sense to the commander. So they've got a shot of me with a ghastly bandage, writhing about in bed, because I'm trying, in a way, communicate with him. I can't tell you, up pops a caption on the television, and it says, the rugby score will be transmitted in 5 minutes. And I thought, excuse me, why don't you choose a bit when somebody's running down a corridor? But this is my moment. This is my Oscar-winning moment on space. I'm riding around and it says the rugby score will be transmitted in 5 minutes. I couldn't believe it, but there we go. What else? So I did quite well. And then, the little nuclear family with in Another Time, Another Place, wasn't it? And that was quite funny too, because you're all too young to know that particular Coronation Street. But they gave me a wig on that, to look, because my hair is so short and so kind of stylized, so again, to look like the little nuclear family. So they plonked this wig on me, which was the most ghastly thing I've ever seen. God knows who had used it before and when it came from. But again, it was Steve Lanning, who was always very funny. And in that time, on Coronation Street, they had a character called Lucille Hewitt, who was really very boring. And Steve said, "Oh, you look like Lucille Hewitt." So I said, "No." So we took the wig off, and they just kind of, did that and made me look a bit less. So that was that one. Anything else?
I have a question. On the moon base, in the beginning, you are always saying Commander Koenig and Dr. Russell, but suddenly you start to say Alan and Paul and so on. Was it a common decision in the group to go with?
Well, no, I would always. No. Alan and Paul, yes, my colleagues, and I wouldn't call somebody I'm having an affair with as, I think I would call him whatever. But I made a point, and it was funny, I brought that up when we did Message, which was, as you know, 20 years later, and Johnny had written, when I'm remembering, I say things like Victor, and I made a note. I said, I don't think I would ever refer to him as Victor. I would always call him Professor Bergman. So it was which no one has nowadays, it's a respect thing. I was that much younger, so it would always be, I think, the commander. I certainly wouldn't dare, I think, call him John. And it would be Dr. Russell. And I'm trying to remember, I think only in Fear, in Full Circle, do I say Helena.
Oh, yes.
But, that is, I'm about to lose it, folks, so I think, I'm not going to worry about her feelings at that point. You want respect? I want my life, So I think that was just, it's what you do. It's like my accent in it, which I find when I do accents, and it's just it's a shortcut to accents, because it's basically, an accent is rhythm, and so when I was playing Sandra with this supposed mid-European accent, it is a shortcut, but I'm sure, I know it happens to me when I'm learning another language, which isn't often, but you're very precise. You don't say, "Don't you think so?" You say, "Do you not think so?" It's only when you're very familiar with a language that you can afford to abbreviate. So I made a point, again, because makes it easier. So when most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, I would never abbreviate anything. I would say, "Wouldn't you?" It'd be, "Would you not, would you not?" But I would do something that wouldn't shorten it, just to give it, it's the seriousness you have for a language that is not your first language. And that was my decision, because I don't think the writers understood what I was talking about, but that I knew that as an actress, that's what I needed to hook onto.
The Message from Base Alpha special that you did with Johnny Byrne and Tim Mallet, did you do it mostly for the fans, or did you hope that it might actually turn into a new Space 1999 TV series?
Never. It was Tim's idea. Tim had been invited to LA, and a lot of the fans were going, and he just thought it would be a nice bit of closure, I suppose, just to, 25 years had gone, it had just been left. Another series had actually come along and taken its place called Year 2. So, he just, and we did it. I mean, these two guys are responsible in many ways. You can lynch them later, because Kit, David, it was their wonderful set on Message. David helped me with the old makeup and the costume, because he's a very gifted designer in his own right. And I'll get the money later. And there's 10% for the agent, okay? And so what happened was that Tim approached me. I think I've got it in my diary somewhere about June, even July. The actual, obviously, convention was the 13th of September, the actual year 1999. So Tim called me and he said, I'm thinking of a little film to say thank you to the fans in LA. So there was no what happens afterwards. That was the beginning and end. And he said, "Would you like to do it?" And I said, "Yes," very flattered. And then we thought, but what, I mean, it was his idea, but, we need to write it. And it was done for love by everybody, right? And so he said he would try Johnny Byrne, see how he felt about writing it. Well, luckily Johnny said yes. So then I get the script, and of course I nearly die, because it's 7 minutes of dialogue. I think in the whole of year 1 and 2, Sandra didn't talk even half as much as that. So I then had to learn it. And so basically, as I said, the convention was the 13th of September. We filmed it the August bank holiday, wasn't it? Which was the last bank holiday. So that, what was it, 28th, 29th of August. We went to Andrew Frampton's house. Andrew had Koenig's desk. As I said, the wonderful set was put up. They had my costume from year 2, but I was a bit bigger around the hips. So I said to Tim, "Please, can I hide behind the desk so you don't see my tummy?" So we put a nice monitor, and I'm over the monitor like that, so you don't see any of me. And that's what we did. We did it in one day, which seems a long time. In movies it isn't really. Usually, by rule of thumb, a professional movie expects to have complete film in the can of 4.5 minutes is usually, even now, more than that you're pushing it, and it's a quick cheapie. That was 7 minutes. And there was editing in the terms of the shots, but not in terms of what was written. Everything that Johnny wrote from start to finish was there, and so that's how we did it.
Did you read it through one time, or was it several shots where you?
Oh no, I had to do. I mean, I couldn't. 7 minutes is a long time on film, and also you see there cutaways. He starts further, he comes in a bit, he cuts away. But there's no teleprompter. I tell you that. There is no teleprompter. I learnt it. And as I say, there were, when it came to the crying bit, sometimes there were too many tears. Not enough tears. The dog was barking. The airplanes were going over, which we didn't have on Moonbase Alpha, and there certainly wasn't. We could have done with a dog on Moonbase Alpha, I think, called Pluto or something. But no, it took time. I mean, I was given license, but it was a lot to learn, and I did learn it. And the awful thing was that 2 days before learning it, I had to do what we call a corporate here, which is for business, and it was 40 pages I had to learn. So I couldn't learn message until I had got that out of the way, because otherwise I'd be doing message in a corporate and a corporate in message, get it all mixed up. So that's what happened. It was a huge set, and very difficult to light, in the sense that I know, if Keith is here and you talk to him, he will say, no, it's easy to light because I'd actually designed these panels. But the point is, it's a cast of 8 roughly, in the sense of, if any of us were in main mission as a group shot, that's a hell of a lot of people to cover. Whatever you've got to, if it doesn't look cheap, in which the series never looked cheap, especially in the year 1, because it looked like a movie. It's very difficult to light, and you forget that, I'm sure you see with your cameras, just a little shaft of light will change an angle, how things look. It was also noisy, believe it or not, because the floor that they put down used to echo. So when we first started, the first few episodes, I have to tell you, it's hysterical. We plan the scene, the shot, and they'd say, "Where are you walking, Zienia?" And then you'd get a man, the carpenter would be on his knees, and he's put carpet down, so that we don't make a noise. And then they change the shot. This is where that shot you didn't see the carpet, but when he turned around for Martin's, yes, you did see the carpet. So up comes the carpet, put it down for Martin, but we can't have it going there because otherwise you're going to catch it. So that is why also, I mean, I'm not privy to what happened, but the reason was they said it took a long time to light. Also have to say that Frank Watts was one of the best lighting cameramen on British television. So he was going to make sure every damn thing was 110% perfect. So, and Frank did what, like the second one says, nothing to do with his personality or anything there. But they took it down. But I think that's Freddie being cheap again, actually, to make it. And also, it's a well-known fact that in command center, because if I'm the big screen and you've got all the banks, and that's where the commander comes through, the camera could only track along this side of it. That side you couldn't go. Well, that stops the time by half, because if the camera can't move there, you can't shoot anything from there. Okay? So the director can't have fancy ideas, because he is now, it's a fait accompli. He cannot shoot from there. So, does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah.
I wander off a lot, as you've noticed, so if I don't actually answer it, ask me again, please.
Why didn't you have rubber shoes to decrease the noise?
Oh no, on top of that, well that was another big thing that happened on year one, because again, I wasn't sure what my contract, because it was done, that's another story, but they gave me, Barbara, of course, as a star, had wonderful, she had these lovely little short boots from Ray, which is a very exclusive shop in Bond Street, and no doubt Sunset Boulevard or, Rodeo Drive, but us lesser mortals, all the girls, were given these dreadful shoes from Marks and Spencer's that were great big clumpy things. They were, the heels were about that size, hewn out of a whole forest must have disappeared. Mm-hmm. They made the most awful noise. The men had sort of boots, but it wasn't that. It's not the rubber. It's actually. I'm not a designer or a floor specialist, but it was echo. It was that. It's not a question. And we couldn't, tiptoe, because we'd look very silly, wouldn't we? This military base and everybody tiptoeing about like Tom and Jerry. That was it. But I did ask. That's it. When they took up my option, and I knew I was going to be in, and that's another story. I said, "Oh, please!" And those feet really crippled you, because they were like bits of wood. And then, and I thought, if I'm going to be wearing these for 1 year, which is the initial thought that it would take a year, I thought by the end of 6 months, I'm going to look like one of those Chinese women with bound feet, So I remember, again going to Sylvia and saying, "Please, can I have some boots like Barbara?" Not because I wanted to be starry, but hers were kid and beautiful and very, very comfortable, and mine weren't. Oh, it took ages. Because, I've got to get these boots. I'm going to get these boots. I don't know what happened. But in the end, I got so fed up. I said, "Listen, I'll buy the bloody boots, but I don't want to have crippled feet." So, and then, they were good. And I went off to Rain, and I had my little boots.
So you could use them private then?
Oh no, you can't use them.
You cannot use them.
You have to make you can't walk off. People walk off, and that's called theft, I think. No, it goes back into wardrobe. They have to be accountable for everything. You can't use it. I couldn't go out to dinner and take the boots with me. I'd be sacked maybe. You don't. And also with modern costumes, what most companies do is you can buy it off them. Very seldom, if you get a cashmere coat, and actors are always saying, "Do you think I should buy that?" Because they're not usually going to buy a cashmere coat, but it's quite handy to have. So the cashmere coat is 100. You pay for 2/3 of it. I know they're always writing about it. The BBC has huge discrepancies of thousands and millions every year because people do walk off with things, but they shouldn't. And unfortunately, the poor wardrobe woman is going to be responsible. If somebody's walked off with the Armani jacket, it's going to be her problem. Am I right?
Yes.
So you negotiate, and also when I did the Norwegian film, I bought things which were mine, which I used. They were very kind. They gave it to me as a present. So some companies, but you've got to think, because here, again, it's production, it's to do with economics. The BBC will then use it again. It might not be on me, but 4 years later, someone else will be using it.
Not even the leopard skin.
The leopard, no, the little leopard. I should have kept it because think what I'd do on eBay. But the little leopard was a real leopard skin.
Yeah.
You know, and Bob said, here it is, you do something with it. He said, you know, I don't want it, you've got to make a costume out of it. So even the leopard.
Yeah.
I should have pinched it and hung it on the wall, I think. Or gone shopping, and then I wouldn't have to queue, would I? They'd be so quick to get me out. I'd get all my shopping done very quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Zienia, I don't know if you would know the answer to this, but I'm wondering, I've read interviews with Martin Landau promoting year 2 and saying that year 2 would have an even bigger budget than year 1, but when I watch it, it actually looks to me like it had less, you know, had a slightly cheaper look to it. And I also remember reading somewhere that year 2 episodes were made in about 10 days, and year 1 episodes actually had a little more time than that, a few more days per episode.
No, I mean the turnaround, the turnaround, and that's 10 days over 2 weeks. So we're saying, and also we're British, so we don't work 6 days, you know, and everybody stops for tea, which is extremely important. No, mock it not. Year 1, I can't remember because I'm not technical, but I think we had 10 days on year 1. I think year 2 was knocked out in about 8. And also with year 2, we had several back-to-backs. And that's why it looked a bit strange because, you know, they had Barbara and Martin sharing. So, you know, Meyer and Koenig would go off on the rules of Lutan. And then, you know, Barbara and Tony would be, you know, tap dancing with aliens and slip dresses on something. So that's the back-to-back so that they could both be working at the same time and they were shared off. What are you questioning? Whether it's true or...
Whether that was true, and were there budget cuts? Because earlier you were
I'm
saying,
a budget cut, yeah.
Right, an example of a budget cut. So I was wondering if that...
I don't know about budget, but you've got to remember, you know, a year in movies or 6 months in movies is very long. The expenses rocket. But then, and also remember, and again, this is absolutely meant as no disrespect. And when people begin a sentence like that, usually they're about to be disrespectful. But if Martin's promoting the show, he's got to say not what he's told, but he's got to be enthusiastic. And you know, I mean, I've seen all the promo stuff that they all did for season 2. You have to do that. You can't start a series and say, I actually think this is crap.
But things off anyway.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's one way of selling it. So I'm sure that, you know, whatever he felt, I mean, I'm just saying there's no responsibility on him. He would have to say that. But what is interesting is that Martin later on does come clean and say he didn't like it and that it had lost its integrity. And Martin is a man of integrity. He could see that was so. But, you know, he's got a, you know, and we all love Freddie. I mean, I'm sure maybe they did, I don't know, but he was all kind of terribly cozy, wasn't it, in all the promos. Well, you've got to do it. You've got to do it, because you can't say, I really think this is awful, don't watch it. Anything else?
We talked before.
Do you still see some of the cast from year 2 that you used to work with?
Not really. We've all kind of gone our different ways, you know, and also it looks nice, but we've all got our different... And we're in touch. I mean, I phoned John Hugg only the other day because the Italians wanted his address, and, you know, I wanted to clear it with him. So if I've got a phone number, you know. I went to see Yaleed's play only last week, which is incredibly good, I have to say. Anybody who watches it's a brilliant play. So there we go. You know, certainly not Barbara and Martin, because I don't know them, and Tony, I'm afraid, is gone, which is very, very sad. So John Hogg, I suppose I should see. Prentice I haven't seen for quite a long time. I've just met up with him. So yeah, I think, you know, we all behave when we see each other.
Did you sort of get on with the semi-regulars in year 2? Did you sort of?
Well, again, you see, it was much more. Well, I wasn't in there that much, and also Pinewood, funny enough, had changed as well. So, you know, year 1. Pinewood had this glorious sort of old-fashioned dining room, you know, like where the main events are taking place, and there were tables, and, you know, we all had our table, and we had a wonderful guy who looked after around the restaurant, and we had our own table. It was the space table. Not Barbara and Martin had their own stuff, I have to say. The second 11, which I'm sure those of you who heard me speak will say, and that was there. So every time we were in, we would just go over, and that table was ours, and we'd sit down, and the deal was that, and we all ate together, which I must say most people found, because usually people don't talk to each other during the series, let alone 25 years later. We'd all sit there. Nick, usually it was Nick, Prentice, Chris and myself, because Anton's stuff was usually with Barbara in the medical centre. But we'd all sit, we'd be released, we'd sit. Also, we had Steve Lanning, who helped us, so that when we finished, you only have an hour for lunch, which is quite right. But if you walked to the restaurant, it took you 20 minutes. Well, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, cuts into your lunch hour a wee bit, and no one serves that fast. But Steve Lanning was terrific, that he had a car standing by. As soon as we were dismissed, we'd all get into the car, we'd be trundled off. 3 minutes to 2, car would be there. We got in, trundled back, so we could have as much lunch hour. So that facilitated us. Year 2, they closed that restaurant down. They had a big buffet, which was about 4 times more expensive, I have to tell you. My money had been cut, so I wasn't going to go there. The second on year 2 didn't let a car for us, so you had to walk there or get a lift from whoever. And as I said, my money was cut. I used to take my own sandwiches, I'm gone, I couldn't afford it. So there wasn't the same reason. And also I was dependent on lifts. So I couldn't sort of say, see you in the bar, guys, because how do I get home? Pinewood's 30 miles away. So I think it conspired in a way, but it wasn't the same feeling. It wasn't the occasion. I don't know what would have happened otherwise. But also it was much more sort of staccato, all the filming, and also you'd be doing back to back, so you wouldn't see each other. I didn't see Nick for yonks at a time, and also do remember whatever you see as scenes, they might have been done 4 days apart. So although it follows one, I probably didn't see that person.
I have a question. Everyone here are very addicted to Alpha. We collect things and like to see the series, and you were in the series. My question is, did you collect something yourself which has to do with Space 1999, or were you, because the furniture were available when you were working in this, did you see it sometimes?
Well, if you want to talk about furniture and collecting, you go to those two guys.
Yeah.
They're past masters, and they know. I didn't collect anything.
No, I just wondered how you managed to avoid to get interested.
Because it's work, darling.
Yeah.
It's not a cult series.
No.
It's a television show, and then you think, I'm back at the labour exchange, and I have to find. So I'm not collecting, only because none of us did. I don't think. I mean, I think Prentice kept his comlock. I wish I'd kept mine. But also, those were guarded, And I had a friend who works for the BBC. Worked for the BBC. He's now a very good designer in his own right. Now, Roger was up at the BBC. This was on year 2. And he's a mate, he's someone I know, and as you do, he sort of said to me oh, Zienia, I'll come and see you later, when I've finished seeing Fred Bloggs over there, I'll call in. He was not allowed onto set. They heard and they barred him because he was a rival, and they said he was not allowed to come onto our set in case he pinched any ideas, which is a bit rude because I'm sure he had his own ideas. In fact, I think he was actually just doing Blake 7 at the time. And so, they were really, really paranoid, and they wouldn't allow him onto set. So all I'm saying is that, and also, as I say, I think I've covered it, it's a show. We didn't think any more than that. I mean, the only thing I've got, which is of interest to everybody, is a little clock that Barbara gave me for Christmas. Which has got, it's got Barbara Bain and Martin Landau and the Christmas. So there's that wee thing. But no, I haven't. No, it sounds, I'm sure to you guys, very disrespectful. But I didn't know that. If I'd known, I tell you, I would have got a van And I would have got a bigger house and I would be selling it off bit by bit. Anything else?
Did you have a few parties, especially year one?
Oh yeah, we had lots. Yeah, we had. Barbara and Martin started off by throwing a party. It was we started in November, so when it came to it wasn't long. So they had a brilliant Christmas party very expensive, beautifully catered, with wonderful food and drink. And they used the main ballroom of Pinewood. They obviously hired it themselves, and everybody was invited, so that was nice. And then, because it's a woman's thing, I think, forgive it. There are lots of chaps in here, so don't all hit me. But I said, oh well, let's us throw a party, which was the second 11, Prentice, Nick, and Clifton, to say thank you to them. But I said, I can't. Possibly none of us can match Barbara's wonderful. Mind you, she also had a secretary, which makes it easier if you've got a secretary doing everything. I would have been the secretary and the caterer, chief cook, bottle washer, and everything else, because men don't help out, as I'm sure you've noticed. None of none of my men ever have, I tell you. And so I said, sorry, what was that?
Come to Scandinavia. No.
I will. I'll take you up on that. Okay, when's a good time? All right. Okay.
You decide. Anytime.
Okay. Anyway, so I said to the boys, let's organise a party, and that by that time I'd called us the second 11, which is the second B team, and so I think we had to do. We couldn't do because again the schedules were done almost on a day-to-day basis. We couldn't say definitely next Friday because maybe only Barbara and Martin were working next Friday, so we had to do it fairly quickly. So all we did was, everybody put in some money, and then poor Suzanne Roquette, because I think she was needed sometimes not as much as us, she then went off to Uxbridge, which was the nearest town, which didn't have a lot, and I said, look, let's keep it simple, it's drink, because film crews like drink, and lots of baguettes, to mop up, pâté, cheese, crisps, that sort of thing, whereas Barbara's do was wonderful canapes and bits of chicken and lobster and God knows, no, none of this. We wanted drink and food so that nobody got too drunk, and that's what we did. And then Helen Bevan, as I said, who was the hairdresser, she helped us out because we were all working. So what we then, used to put in the notice board, I think we put, the second 11 invite the whole crew to a party end stage, at 5:30, and then what we would do obviously was, we'd be doing something on Alpha, and then if there was half an hour, we'd go and start cutting up the, stuff and doing the butter, and then you want it back, hello, Commander, and then go and cut some more cheese or something, and that's what we did. So we, it was we had.
You really did it. You really did it like that. I misunderstood. You really did it like this. What you?
Yes.
I think you don't. Oh, okay. Now I get it. Sorry.
Oh yes. All very very basic. No secretaries. No caterers. We just get the stuff out and throw it out, and we got tables. We managed. I think we were very civilized, and we got tablecloths. But that was about the nearest we got to anything very civilized. But listen, come 5:45, everybody's drunk, so there's no point anyway. So, they're not going to notice the tablecloth, and if they do, you've got a bad party, I tell you.
Was it a good party? Was it a good party?
Oh, it was terrific, and we had several.
We had some pictures from the party.
Have you?
I don't have, that's why I asked.
Oh, I don't know. No, nobody was sober enough to take pictures, I don't think. And then the boys were, and also the boys were very sorry.
Sorry, Zienia, I was just going to ask you about your charming book.
Well, good man of taste and
your
special.
recollections are so vivid. Did you keep a diary?
No, just
remembrance.
Yeah. Well, you see, I was happy on it, and you only negate when you're not happy. So I did have good memories of it. I do tell the truth, and people have said, why you know, your stories tend not to vary. Well, there's only one story, isn't it? Which is the one that happened. But no, I kept no diary. Again, I didn't think. I'm not a diary keeper anyway. The only diary I've got in the kitchen that says the gas man's coming, the dentist is in 2 days' time, and the rates are due. So I'm not, you know, I'm not a diary person. I mean, I am now because I realise, you know, I have to be, you know, because of certain things. But in those days, also pretty tired. No time to write up diaries. Because, you know, I would have to be up at 5 to get the train and whatever, to meet Prentice at Hammersmith. We would get home about 7. I used to envy the boys like mad because they used to go out partying and drinking, and they'd come back in the morning looking very rough and butch and wondrous. Ladies can't do that because big bags under their eyes. So I would actually, and it actually crucified me for quite a long time, I actually had to take sleeping pills to make myself sleep at 10 o'clock because what would happen, I'd come back at 7, be shattered, have a bath, something to eat, then I'd be, you know, I'd get second wind, but I think, no, God, I've got to go to bed because I'll be up at 5 and I need, you know, 7 hours, 8 hours sleep because I was young then. And so that's what I did. And so I certainly didn't keep, you know, but I do remember it because it was very, very, it was good, it was a wonderful experience. And you know, for over 15 months, which was the first year, it's not a huge amount of memories, it's a goodish amount, but, you know, I'm sure other people, but I'm glad because those are the memories from the heart. They're not because I've written down and said A equals C, it's because they stand out. And I hope, you know, that I can share the joyousness of them because that's what they were. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm afraid I'm the bearer of bad news.
You've got another 3 hours with me.
No, you're not a model maker, Zienia.
Thank you very much, Zienia. Thank you. I have to say thank you for all of you being such a great turnout. I didn't expect so many of you to be interested, and I do thank you all. And I hope I'll see you again at another convention.
Yeah.